Why do I have a smile on my face? You got it, I'm flying to LaGuardia tonight. And this time to LaGuardia, I'll be featuring a new approach. I can't wait to share it with you, but first we need to leave Atlanta, where we'll be turning away from the runway before we take the runway for ourselves. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and greetings from the Delta Sky Club. I've got a ticket on a Delta Airlines Airbus A321 to LaGuardia, and you're coming along with me. Today's flight will be 417 using the air traffic control call sign of Delta 417. You'll be hearing the pilot later. Alpha 3 is my gate today. That's at the very end of this very long concourse. All right, I am all ready to go up to LaGuardia. I cannot wait. Now, a couple of interesting things about today. Today's a Saturday, and on Saturday morning, sometimes runways are closed at LaGuardia, so LaGuardia was actually landing on runway 13. Interesting. Runway 422 will be closed all night, so it's either we'll be landing on runway 13 or 31 tonight. My seat is on the right side of the plane just in case we land on runway 13 and fly low over 125th Street, providing great views of Manhattan. But the wind at the time of my flight is hard to predict tonight, so it's up in the air tonight. LaGuardia, here we come. Tonight, I'm on November 388 Delta November, a 5.5-year-old A321, and my seat is in the rear of the plane, 34 Foxtrot. Sitting back here gives me some nice views of the wing, and I can watch the cargo being loaded below me. We'll be sitting at the gate just a little bit longer than normal because we have to wait for a pilot who's a bit late arriving from an inbound flight.
I'm coming over to fill in. He's at the airport and on his way to the aircraft right now, so appreciate your patience. We might be a little bit delayed getting out of here, but any time we can make up airborne, we're absolutely going to do that. So as soon as the captain gets here and we run through some checklists, we'll get you underway. Sorry for the slight delay here. I'd like to thank you for your business, and we'll keep you updated. As soon as he gets here, we'll get underway.
It didn't wind up being too much of a delay. Now, all day, Atlanta had been in a westbound operation, and that was definitely the case when I boarded this Airbus. These are the runways that the airport information was broadcasting earlier.
Simultaneous departures, departing runways, 26 left, 27 right.
However, just before we pushed back, the wind changed and the airport switched to an eastbound operation. So as we pushed back, all the aircraft that were taxiing to take off to the west had to turn around under the guidance of ground control. Here's the new runway information in ATIS.
Simultaneous departures, departing runways, 8 right, 9 left.
This will cause a longer lineup of aircraft than usual. Our newly assigned departure runway today will be runway 9 left, which means that after pulling out of the ramp on ramp number 2 on the south side, we'll have to make a right turn to get to the runway. The issue is that the line of departing planes for runway 9 left extends past our ramp, so we'll have to join the back of the line. The only way to get there is to make a left turn out of the ramp, then join the conga line. Let's listen in to our pilot contact ground control.
Ground at the 417, 2 south taxi with November.
Delta 417, Atlanta ground, 9 left, Mike 2, taxi left Lima, short of Lima 10.
Left lane short of Lima 10, Delta 417.
Yeah, left on Lima.
Left on Lima, short of Lima 10, Delta 417.
The controller said that we'll be taking off on runway 9 left at the intersection of taxiway Mike 2, which is one taxiway before the beginning of the runway. Now to get there, he instructs us to turn left on taxiway Lima, which is the first turn out of the ramp, and to hold short of taxiway Lima 10. The idea is to eventually get in the line on the parallel taxiway Mike. Lima 10, the taxiway we're told to hold short of, is more than halfway down the length of the runway. Holding short of Lima 10 is an indication that we might be eventually using Lima 10 to turn right on to join the line, and since it's more than halfway down the runway, that could indicate a really long line of airplanes waiting to take off due to the runway change. But the conga line is moving along rapidly, and the controller sees that we don't need to taxi all the way down to Lima 10. We can turn right on taxiway Uniform, which is less than halfway down the runway.
Delta 417, it's Uniform, join Mike, and then taxi 9 left, Mike 2.
At Uniform, join Mike, taxi 9 left, Mike 2, Delta 417.
Things are looking good. We can turn earlier than we expected to get to runway 9 left at taxiway Mike 2. All right, we're joining the conga line of aircraft. There's a similar lineup of aircraft on the north side of the airport for departures on the northern side due to the runway change too. Our previous view was of the runways, and now that we've turned around, we have a view of the vast ramp area where all the gates are located. While on the conga line, which is making great progress, the controller sees there are no further commands to us that need to be issued. Once we get to taxiway Mike 2, we need to make a left turn and await instructions from the tower to enter the runway, so the controller tells us to monitor the control tower frequency.
Delta 417, monitor tower 12385.
2385, Delta 417, good night.
So all we have to do now is just follow the airplane in front of us, which will also be turning left onto taxiway Mike 2 to enter the runway. The tower controller, who's issuing takeoff clearance to aircraft on the runway, is conducting a very efficient operation today. Once we get to taxiway Mike 2 and the previous flight has issued takeoff clearance, Atlanta Tower tells us to line up and wait on the runway.
Delta 417, runway 9 left, Mike 2, line up and wait.
Delta 417, line up and wait, 9 left, Mike 2.
This runway is our runway. As we turn the corner, we'll be headed east with just a little bit less than the full 12,390 feet available to us for our takeoff roll since we're entering the runway on taxiway Mike 2. This runway is being used for departures only, something very feasible with 5 parallel runways. Another runway on the north side of the field is also being used for departures this evening. For us, we'll be flying the Jack 2 departure procedure, which calls for us to fly to a point called Lidus after takeoff, which is virtually straight out in front of the departure path. After Lidus, we'll continue even further out in a straight line to a point called Irwin. As we begin our takeoff roll, you'll notice 2 airplanes landing on 2 parallel runways to the south of us. You'll also see 2 planes facing the opposite direction that have landed. Let's get our clearance now from the control tower.
Delta 417, RNAV XRAY runway 9 left, Mike 2, clear for takeoff.
Delta 417, RNAV XRAY runway 9 left, Mike 2, clear for takeoff.
We're airborne and climbing toward Lidus. Back in the control tower, there's been a change of controllers, and the new controller instructs us to contact departure control.
Delta 417, contact departure here. Delta 417, this is departure. Good day, sir.
I'll have more ATC for you once we start on down to LaGuardia. For now, we're just going to fly straight out for a while on the Jack 2 RNAV departure procedure to Lidus and Irwin. LaGuardia, of course, is to the northeast of Atlanta, and this procedure suits our needs perfectly. After several miles of flying straight out, after Irwin, we will turn to the left, or northeast, to Jack, then continue en route to LaGuardia. Hey viewers, pardon the interruption. I really hope you've been enjoying my videos. I strive to put out the best content to make my channel the best aviation channel on YouTube. And did you know that there's a way for you to support my channel? It's called Super Thanks, and it's available on every video that I produce. To give Super Thanks, click on the 3 dots under the video on the bottom right. Then click on Thanks. Use the slider to select the amount you'd like to give, then click Buy and Send. Sending levels start at just $2. Everything that you send from Super Thanks goes right back to this channel to make it the best channel out there. Thanks everybody. Now, let's get on with today's video. As we proceed along to the northeast, I find no reason to lower the window shade and sit back. After all, I paid for a window and I'm taking full advantage of it. And with my window shade up, I have a great view of the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, a hub for American Airlines. It covers 5,500 acres of land and is 6 miles away from the city center, which you can see here. On this flight, there were occasional clouds, so I didn't get to point out many other points of interest or aircraft en route like I usually do. To get to our destination airport, we need to fly the arrival procedure to LaGuardia, the Corey for arrival, for flights coming from our direction as we approach the New York City area. Before we contact approach control, let's listen in to LaGuardia airport information to find out some current airport information about the airport.
LaGuardia Airport 8 gets information uniform 235 from Julie. Wind 040 at 5. Visibility 10. 6,000 scattered. 25,000 scattered. Temperature 28. 2.17. Altimeter 2982. Remark. AO2 sea level pressure 098102924202785 Area navigation X-ray runway frequent approach and use land runway frequent. Depart runway frequent. Runway 4. 22 closed.
Well, there you have it. It's confirmed that we will not be landing on runway 13 today, but we'll be landing on runway 31. And we'll be flying the RNAV XRAY Runway 31 approach, or as ATIS called it, Area Navigation X-ray. An RNAV approach uses waypoints, speeds, and altitudes that are stored in the plane's navigation system for a very precise approach. This particular approach is very similar to the Expressway Visual Runway 31 approach, but it's much more accurate and doesn't rely on pilots looking out the window for visual checkpoints. Let's check in with New York Approach Control out on Long Island to inform the controller that we have received the airport information labeled uniform.
Yes, first up to 417 Technon, sending by the Corey forward, get information uniform, and 300 knots or better.
Delta 417, New York approach, altimeter 2983.
Generate 3 in the meter, Delta 417.
Now, for this video, I'm going to speed up our path on the Corey arrival, but I'll include all transmissions between our flight and the controller. Here's the next transmission.
Delta 417, direct to Pachu, join the final.
Delta 417, direct Pachu.
Wow, we were told to go direct to Pachu. Pachu is a waypoint over Brooklyn that represents the start of the RNAV XRAY approach. Traffic must be light since we're already going to point our nose to the start of the approach. Here's the next transmission.
Delta 417, descend and maintain 7,000.
Delta 417, descend and maintain 7,000.
We need to cross Pachu at 3,000 feet, but we're cleared down to 7,000 feet only, so we still have quite a bit to go before we can get down to 3,000. 7,000 feet keeps us clear of flights departing Newark Airport below us. At this point, the controller probably forgot that he told us to proceed direct to Pachu because he asks us to do it again, but the pilot says we're doing it.
Delta 417, proceed direct Pachu.
Delta 417, we are already direct Pachu, sir.
Okay.
A few minutes later, while clear of Newark departures, we're clear for the approach and are told that we can cross Pachu at or above 3,000 feet.
Delta 417, cross Pachu at or above 3,000, cleared RNAV XRAY, runway 31 approach.
Delta 417, cross Pachu at or above 3,000, cleared RNAV XRAY, runway 31 approach.
But before we get handed off to LaGuardia Tower, we're given a speed reduction.
Delta 417, reduce speed to 180.
Delta 417, phone to 180.
Okay, we're all set up for the approach, proceeding direct to Pachu, which is directly over Park Slope in Brooklyn. We're now passing by Coney Island, which is part of Brooklyn. Sorry for the short video clips of the arrival procedure, but the flight attendants had the lights on in the cabin for a while, making it very difficult to film out the window due to reflection. With the interior lights off, the bright city lights of Brooklyn are easier to focus on, and I'm happy to bring you the RNAV XRAY approach. The view of Manhattan is on the left side of the plane, and I chose this side just in case we landed on runway 13 because runway 422 is closed this evening. I'll make the most out of what's presented to me now. It's now time for the controller to hand us off to LaGuardia Tower.
Delta 417, contact LaGuardia Tower, 118.7, speed, your discretion.
Speed your discretion, switching tower 18-7, Delta 417, good day.
We'll call the tower in a moment. For location awareness, the dark area at the top of the screen is the Atlantic Ocean, and the straight string of lights below it is the barrier island of the Rockaways. The dark area under the wing between the Rockaways and the mainland is Jamaica Bay. In a moment, to the left of the bay will be Kennedy Airport. Almost all of the land that you see in this approach will be the boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens, which is all situated on Long Island. Let's check in right now with LaGuardia Tower.
LaGuardia Tower, Delta 417, to view Pachu.
Delta 417, LaGuardia, wind 2008, runway 31, cleared to land, number 2.
Number 2 for the runway, code land, runway 31, Delta 417.
We checked in at Pachu, which means that we're right over Park Slope, Brooklyn. And we're proceeding now on a 45-degree heading to another waypoint, Shea, which is about 2.5 miles ahead. If you watched my video about the Park Visual Runway 31 approach, this is basically the same approach, but it lacks the visual component. Navigation here is accomplished with waypoints, but they're the same waypoints also used in the Park Visual approach to runway 31. This approach is very similar to the old Expressway Visual approach, which is very heavily reliant on landmarks on the ground, such as the Long Island Expressway. Unlike the Expressway Visual approach, this approach has us make a right turn of just 14 degrees to the right after Shea. Here's that turn now. We're now established on a 59-degree heading and pointed to Gaycar, a waypoint named after Gary Carter, a former member of the New York Mets. Oh, and Shea, which we just passed over, is a reference to the Mets' Shea Stadium, although it's physically far from it in Brooklyn over Bedford-Stuyvesant. Gaycar is physically over Queens and Bushwick Junction in Queens. Once we get to Gaycar, we'll turn to the right to an 89-degree heading, which will help set us up for left traffic to runway 31. And that right turn to help us get closer to landing is about to happen right now. The right turn is similar to the turn pilots made on the Expressway Visual approach, but it doesn't rely on anything visual. We're roughly following the path of the Long Island Expressway, which can be seen from the cockpit. On this 89-degree heading, we're pointed directly to a waypoint over Regal Park, Queens, named Darrell. Darrell is named after another famous New York Mets player, Darryl Strawberry. LaGuardia Airport is off to our left, and I would have preferred to be on that side of the airplane, the left side. When we checked in, the tower reported to us that the winds were at 200 degrees at 8 knots. That actually provides a bit of a tailwind component for our landing, so technically if we wanted to land with a headwind component, runway 13 would be the ideal runway for this evening, but they're having us land on runway 31. Because of the wind heading at the time of landing, I can't feel too bad about the seat choice I made because it's more favorable for landing on runway 13, and I was anticipating a low approach over Manhattan, thus the seat on the right side of the plane. We're coming up on Darrell, so it's time to make our left base to a 44-degree heading to Keith, named for Mets player Keith Hernandez, and located over Corona, Queens. We're still turning while over Keith and need to continue past Keith to a heading of 359 degrees as we continue our left base. This points us to the waypoint Dr. K, a nickname for Dwight Gooden, another Mets player. Dr. K is located over Flushing, Queens. We're over Dr. K now, and runway 31 is directly ahead of us. We'll fly over a small part of Flushing Bay, and we're all set to land on the 7,000-foot runway. We landed long and actually rolled through the intersection of the closed runway 422.
The port 17, you could exit at the end if you like. If you have double up, that's fine. You could exit at the end, golf, and then contact me.
At the end, golf, and then ground, Delta 417.
That's it for ATC for this video. On the way back, ground control had us cross runway 422 again, which was very easy to coordinate since it was closed for the day. From there, it was straight into the Terminal C ramp for the termination of this great flight. I missed the Manhattan view since I was on the right side of the airplane, but here it is here. All right, everybody, I've made it to LaGuardia Airport. What a great flight it was, as all flights are, of course. Very interesting that we used the entire length of runway 31 to land today. Well, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, I invite you to click on the subscribe button below, hit the bell button, hit the like button, and I'll be back again with another video like this very soon. Thanks, everybody. See you in the sky.